There are moments in life when a kiss carries more than affection. It carries memory, longing, a silent cry for safety, and sometimes a prayer. When Louise Hay spoke of healing touch, she wasn't just referring to hands that comfort, but to energy that communicates. You are worthy. You are loved. A kiss, in its sacred essence, can whisper what no voice ever managed to say out loud. And for many women, it's not about romance. It's about finally being seen. Maybe you've spent years craving not just closeness, but presence. Not just a kiss, but a kind of contact that says, I won't run from your soul. Maybe you've known touches that were hurried, or cold, or performed. And in your chest, something aches. Not just for affection, but for affirmation. Louise would say this ache stems from an old belief, one that whispers, I'm not worthy of pure touch. I have to earn it. You've been taught to prove your value, to give and give, hoping one day someone would pause long enough to truly feel you. But what if kisses were never meant to be currency? What if they were messages from the divine, little gestures carrying the sacred language of safety? Clarissa Pinkola Estes writes of the wild woman, the untamed feminine soul that knows touch is not transaction, but soul nourishment. When a man kisses you with presence, it's not about possession. It's a reverence, a moment where he honors something holy in you, something even you may have forgotten. And in that stillness, when lips meet skin not out of habit but devotion, the body responds like the earth welcoming rain. Think of a seed resting beneath the soil, waiting for morning dew. It doesn't ask to be loved loudly. It just needs to be touched with care. Many women live like that seed, quiet, full of life, but longing for the right conditions to bloom. So maybe that's why certain kisses feel different. Not because of where they land, but because of what they awaken. They don't just reach your skin, they reach your story. They speak to the girl inside you who was never held long enough, never looked at fully, never kissed in a way that said, you matter. Even in silence, you matter. And when you've spent your life giving more than receiving, there's a deep hunger that forms, a kind of emotional emptiness that no word can quite describe. You find yourself waiting to be chosen, waiting to be held, waiting for a kind of kiss that feels like home. But not every kiss will feel sacred. Some are rushed, shallow, forgotten before they even land. And others linger like a hymn. They pause, they breathe, they stay. And in that staying, something inside you exhales, because it remembers what safety feels like, and that's where we begin. And when he leans in, not with urgency, but with intention, and places a kiss at the center of your forehead, something deeper stirs. Not passion, not excitement, something older than both, recognition. It's as if for a moment, he sees not the woman you present to the world, but the child you once were. The child who longed for softness, the child who needed to be calmed after the chaos, the child who cried in silence because there was no one safe enough to hear her. You feel it, don't you? That ache that rises when someone touches you with reverence, not demand. That ache isn't pain. It's memory. It's the echo of being unsoothed, unseen. Louise Hay would call this the wounded child within, still yearning for someone to say, it's okay now. You're safe here. A kiss on the forehead, in its gentleness, doesn't ask for anything. It gives. It protects. It wraps you in a tenderness you didn't know your body was still waiting for. And yet, there's a pattern that lives deep inside. The belief that love must be loud, passionate, unpredictable. That if it's not dramatic, it's not real. But the soul knows otherwise. The soul knows that emotional coldness is not love withheld. It's love unlearned. And when a man kisses your forehead with his eyes still closed, when he pauses there as if whispering to your inner world, he is not just loving you, he is tending to what the world forgot to hold. It's not always easy to receive that kind of love. You might feel a lump in your throat, a softening in your chest. You might even want to pull away, not because it hurts, but because it touches too deeply. Because something inside says, do I deserve this kind of care? And the answer, though hard to believe, is yes. Yes, you do. Not because you've done enough, but because you are enough. So when his lips rest gently on your forehead, don't rush. Don't explain it away. Just notice. Does he pause? Do you feel time slow down? That is not coincidence. That is presence. That is a man loving not just the surface of you, but the soul of you. It is moonlight, not spotlight. Quiet, but luminous. It does not demand attention. It simply illuminates. And in that illumination, your inner child might finally whisper back, "I'm here. I've been waiting." There's a quiet reverence in the way he leans toward your temple, a place often overlooked, yet so intimately close to your mind. It's not a grand gesture, but it carries something sacred. For the woman whose thoughts were so often dismissed, whose voice was talked over or silenced, that kiss is not just affection, it's validation. It's as if he's telling you, "I hear you, even in your silence." Maybe you learned early on to second-guess your insights, to shrink your intelligence so you wouldn't intimidate, to pretend you didn't know just to keep the peace. And slowly, you began to question the worth of your own thoughts. You started to wonder if anyone would ever value what lives inside your mind. Not just your body, not just your care, but your truth. A kiss on the temple breaks that spell. It speaks to the parts of you that stopped sharing your wisdom because the world made you feel it wasn't welcome. When he kisses that space beside your eye, he's not just getting close. He's honoring the story behind your gaze. He's telling you your thoughts matter, that your intellect is not too much, not too sharp, not too complicated, just worthy. There's something profoundly healing in that moment, if you let yourself feel it. A temple kiss doesn't rush. It settles. It says, "I'm not just here for the surface. I'm here to know you, all of you." And that can be hard to accept, especially when you've trained yourself to hide the deepest parts of your mind for fear of being misunderstood. But if you close your eyes and allow that kiss to land fully, not just on your skin, but in your memory, you might feel something shift. You might feel a kind of remembering that once, long ago, there was a version of you who spoke freely, thought boldly, dreamed openly, and maybe, just maybe, she's still there. That kiss becomes a bookmark in the story of your mind, a moment that marks the return of your voice, a gentle pause in a long chapter of being silenced. And when someone chooses to rest their lips there, it's not random, it's reverent. It means they see beyond the noise. They see your mind as a sacred place. And isn't that what you've always longed for? Not just to be seen, but to be read, to be understood not as a mystery to be solved, but as a depth to be honored. When that kiss finds your temple, let it be the beginning of that honoring. Let it speak what words never could. And then there are his lips reaching for your hand, not to pull, not to possess, but to honor. A kiss on the hand might seem simple, even old-fashioned, but its message runs deeper than tradition. It's not about submission. It's about seeing, about acknowledging the part of you that has held, carried, nurtured, and offered, again and again. For the woman who has given more than she had, for the one who poured love even when her own cup was dry, this moment can feel foreign. You're so used to being needed for what you can provide, your care, your patience, your forgiveness, that when someone pauses to kiss the very hand that gave, it stirs something unfamiliar. Not demand, not expectation, but gratitude. There's pain under that gesture too, isn't there? The quiet ache of feeling used, of offering and not being seen, of wondering if love is only real when it costs you something. And maybe that's the pattern you've lived, believing that giving is your only way to be chosen, that to be loved, you must exhaust yourself first. But a kiss on the hand doesn't ask for anything. It says, "I see the labor. I see the tenderness. I see you." It recognizes that you are more than your gestures, that your worth isn't tied to your service, that even in stillness you deserve reverence. So when a man reaches for your hand and kisses it slowly, without fanfare, without performance, it becomes something else. It becomes sacred. The pace of his lips tells a story, not a story of urgency, but of respect, not a claim, but a bow, not because you are fragile, but because you are worthy. Feel the difference in his touch. Is it soft? Is it intentional? That's not just affection. It's awareness. A man who loves deeply knows that your hand has held pain, that your fingers have clenched through heartbreak, that your palms have carried more than anyone saw. And in that kiss, he's not just meeting your skin, he's meeting your history. Like a small flame lighting a forgotten path, the warmth of that kiss may remind you, you are not what you give. You are the one who gives, and that alone makes you holy. And when his lips gently find the space between your eyes, right above the bridge of your nose, something ancient and unspoken begins to stir. This is not a place people touch casually. This is the third eye, the gateway to intuition, perception, inner knowing. And when he chooses to kiss you there, it's as if he's saying, I trust the truth you carry, even when you don't. So many women have learned to silence that truth, not because they wanted to, but because the world made it dangerous to feel deeply. You may have sensed when something was off, when someone was lying, when love was leaking out of the cracks. But instead of being believed, you were told you were too sensitive, too dramatic, too much. So you learned to doubt. You learned to question what your body already knew. But the body never forgets. And in that moment, when someone pauses at the space between your eyes and kisses you, not playfully, but reverently, it can feel like a homecoming, not to him, to yourself, as if for the first time, someone is telling you without words, I see your vision, I honor your sight. It's subtle, almost weightless, but the message is profound. That kiss does not entertain. It listens. It doesn't distract. It aligns. He's not just connecting with you. He's aligning with your essence. He's slowing down enough to touch the part of you that knows, that sees, that remembers. And perhaps the most beautiful part is this. He doesn't need to understand everything you feel. He just needs to respect that it matters. That your emotional world is not a puzzle to be solved, but a landscape to be walked with care. When he rests his lips there, it's not about answers. It's about presence. A kiss on the third eye feels like a bloom in the dark, a soft flower unfurling beneath the eclipse. It's quiet, but transformative. It reminds you that your feelings are not flaws. They are signals. They are sacred. And they deserve a place in your relationship, not as obstacles, but as guides. So if you feel your breath catch when he touches you there, let it. That's not just affection. That's alignment. That's his soul reaching for the wisdom in yours. And then there is the kiss on your neck, a place both delicate and exposed. It is not a kiss that simply excites. It's a kiss that reveals, because the neck is where we hold our breath, where we tighten when fear walks close, where we carry the tension of what we never said and the longing we tried to bury. To receive a kiss, there is to be seen in your most vulnerable place. It's to be known beyond the roles you perform, the masks you wear. And if you've ever been hurt, deeply, intimately, you may instinctively guard that space. You might turn away, not because you don't want connection, but because the memory of betrayal still lingers like a shadow. You've learned to armor up, to make your longing less visible, to become strong. But strength doesn't mean numbing. It doesn't mean pretending you don't ache to be touched where your soul lives closest to the surface. A kiss on the neck is not just a kiss. It's an invitation. One that asks, can I meet you there? Where you're soft and real and unguarded. And the way he kisses you there, it tells you everything. Is it rushed, impatient, selfish? Or is it slow, reverent, thoughtful? The difference is not in technique. It's in intention. A man who kisses your neck with true presence isn't trying to take. He's trying to feel, to listen with his lips to the story your skin is still holding. And in that moment, if you let yourself stay, something inside you may begin to soften, not out of weakness, but out of remembrance, because you weren't meant to live clenched. You weren't meant to brace for love. You were meant to open. And opening doesn't mean exposure to danger. It means returning to your natural state, fluid, expressive, alive. That kiss, if given with soul, feels like raindrops coaxing a canyon to bloom. It's gentle but persistent. It doesn't force you to let go. It invites you to surrender, to trust that this time, the touch doesn't come with strings or silence or withdrawal. This time it stays. This time it sees. This time it waits until your body feels safe enough to respond. And that changes everything. And then there's that subtle, almost overlooked moment, when his lips brush against your cheek and linger just at the edge. Not rushed, not loud, just there. It's a gesture that doesn't shout, but it doesn't need to, because that kind of kiss carries a presence so quiet it almost feels like stillness itself. And yet, within that stillness, there's a depth, a message that says, I'm with you. Not for what you offer, not for what I want, just because you're here. For the woman who has known performative love, gifts without meaning, affection without presence, smiles that don't reach the eyes, this kiss can feel disorienting. You're used to love that performs, not love that pauses, love that moves quickly through the motions, not love that settles into the moment. And there's a part of you that wonders, what does it mean when he doesn't rush? When he lets his lips rest, not with desire but with reverence? What does it mean when his kiss isn't followed by expectation, but by quiet? Maybe it means he's not trying to get closer to your body. Maybe he's trying to stay close to your being. That's a rare kind of intimacy, because so often we confuse closeness with obligation. We think if someone stays, we owe them something. We think if someone touches us, we must perform. But a kiss like this, held gently at the cheek, staying just long enough to be felt but not long enough to take, rewrites that narrative. In that breath-long pause, it's as if time bends, and you are no longer in the loop of proving, pleasing, or protecting. You are simply there, being held without being asked for anything in return. And maybe that's why it catches in your throat, because it's unfamiliar. But unfamiliar doesn't mean unsafe. It means new. It means healing. It feels like a pause between heartbeats, like the world stopped spinning just long enough for you to feel, felt, and in that small, silent act, something begins to shift. The idea that you must earn every second of tenderness begins to dissolve, and in its place comes something softer, something truer, that you are not loved for what you do or how you perform. You are loved for who you are, even when you're not speaking, not smiling, not giving, just being. And sometimes, that kind of kiss is enough to remind you, presence is the most powerful love of all. And then, without warning, there's the kiss that arrives out of nowhere, the one that wasn't asked for, wasn't timed, wasn't part of any routine. It happens in the middle of cooking, or while you're folding laundry, or just standing still in thought. And suddenly, there he is, leaning in, surprising you with a moment that doesn't seek attention, but offers it. That kind of kiss doesn't just land on your lips. It lands in your nervous system. It tells you, I see you, even when you're not performing. For the woman who spent a lifetime staying on call for affection, waiting for texts that never came, hoping for gestures that always arrived too late, this kind of kiss can feel almost impossible to trust, because you've learned to expect absence, to lower your expectations, so you wouldn't feel the sting of disappointment. You've trained yourself to be grateful for crumbs, just so the silence wouldn't eat you alive. But this kiss, this unexpected, unscripted kiss, is different. It doesn't arrive as an apology or a transaction. It arrives as presence, and not the kind of presence that requires explanation, the kind that just is. He doesn't kiss you because you asked. He kisses you because in that moment, something about your being pulled him closer, and that changes the rhythm of everything. Because now, affection isn't tied to your performance. It's not something you earn by being agreeable, available, or easy to love. It's something he gives freely, because desire doesn't need a reason. It only needs truth. And when that truth is met with surprise, it feels like lightning touching dry earth. It wakes something up. Your breath might catch. Your eyes might close without meaning to. And in that brief pause, you feel something rise inside you. Not hope, not fantasy. Something steadier. Something that says, I didn't have to ask for this. It just came. And that realization, the idea that love can arrive without being begged for, is perhaps the deepest healing of all. Because spontaneity isn't chaos. When rooted in love, it's the most honest kind of care. It means you're not just being loved for what you give, or how you look, or what you do. You're being loved for the sheer miracle of existing. And that, more than anything, teaches your heart to breathe again. And then there's that tender moment at the doorway, or beside the car, or just before sleep, when he leans in for a goodbye kiss that holds more than farewell. It holds continuity. It holds promise. It holds a quiet reassurance that this is not the end, but a pause. And for the woman who has lived through too many silent departures, too many doors that never reopened, that kind of kiss is not small. It's monumental. Because there's a pain that lives in goodbyes. Not just the big ones, but the daily ones. The moments when someone leaves without really looking back. When words are spoken, but presence is missing. When you're told, "I'll be back," but your heart isn't sure whether to believe it. And maybe you've clung in those moments, not out of weakness, but out of history, out of the ache of past abandonment still echoing in your chest. Louise Hay would say that abandonment wounds often manifest as a fear of being forgotten, a belief that if you're not constantly visible, constantly pleasing, you might simply disappear from their mind. So you hold on, you overcompensate, you linger in the goodbye because it feels like the only proof you still matter. But then, this kiss, this goodbye kiss that doesn't feel rushed, doesn't avoid your eyes, doesn't trail off with distraction. Instead, it grounds you. His lips meet yours not in haste, but with steadiness. There's no question in the way he holds your face, no hesitation in the contact, just a quiet knowing, a silent vow that says, you're not being left, you're being trusted. And maybe for the first time, your body doesn't brace, your heart doesn't sprint to catch up. You don't need to clutch or explain or negotiate your worth, because the way he kisses you tells you he's already coming back, not just in body, but in heart. That this space between now and next time is not a void. It's a bridge. It's the kind of kiss that seals something invisible. Not ownership, not control, but connection. And that connection allows you to breathe more freely, to trust more deeply, to rest in the knowing that love doesn't always mean presence, but it does mean return. And in that return, your nervous system begins to unlearn the panic. It begins to believe in safety, in consistency, in the quiet miracle of someone who doesn't just love you when they're near, but loves you even while they're away. And then there is the kiss that silences everything, the one that begins with his eyes locked into yours. Still, soft, unwavering. He's not looking at your appearance. He's looking into your presence. And in that gaze, something inside you starts to settle. Because for once, you're not wondering if you're enough. You feel it, in the way his attention doesn't flinch, in the way time stretches, in the way the world fades and it's just this. When his lips finally reach your forehead, or your mouth, or any part of you held in stillness, it's not about climax. It's about communion. This isn't a kiss meant to escalate. It's meant to anchor. And in that anchoring, something powerful happens. You stop reaching. You stop shrinking. You simply exist. Fully. Present. Real. For the woman who has felt invisible, especially in intimacy, this moment can feel like a reckoning, because you've known how it feels to be touched without being seen, to be kissed without being chosen, to be held by someone whose heart was somewhere else. And you've told yourself it's fine. You've made excuses. You've called it just how it is. But deep down, you've always known something was missing. And here, now, it's not. Because this kiss doesn't ask you to be anything but awake. Awake to the miracle that you're not being avoided, or dismissed, or half received. You are being witnessed. And that witnessing changes everything. It's not the pressure of his lips that matters. It's the presence in his body, the stillness in his breath, the way he meets your gaze and doesn't look away. That's the part that stops time. That's the part that says, you are not invisible. You are here, and I'm here too. It feels like a mirror flooding with sunlight, clear, warm, undeniable. And as it lands, you might feel your old stories rise, the ones that say you're too much, or not enough, or only worthy when you're useful. But this kiss doesn't leave space for those lies, because when someone loves you in presence, those stories lose their power, and all that's left is you, whole, breathing, seen, loved without question, not for who you pretend to be, but for who you truly are. And in the stillness that follows all these kisses, something deeper begins to settle, not in your mind, but in your heart. Louise Hay once said, "Every kiss is a word you didn't speak." And when you let yourself receive, not just the gestures, but the meaning behind them, those unspoken words begin to reach the parts of you that have waited in silence for far too long. You start to feel the difference between being touched and being cherished, between being held and being honored, because real love doesn't rush. It doesn't demand. It listens. It watches. It pauses long enough for your soul to feel safe. And that kind of love doesn't just soothe the surface. It heals what lives underneath. The ache, the doubts, the invisible bruises. And that's where Brené Brown's truth lands like balm. Vulnerability in touch is courage. These kisses, the forehead, the temple, the hand, the neck, the pause at the cheek, the unexpected moment, the grounded goodbye, the kiss that stops time, none of them are about performance. They are about presence. And in presence, the most guarded parts of you begin to soften, not because you were told to, but because you were finally met. In each of these moments, the man who truly loves you isn't trying to prove his power. He's protecting your softness. He's honoring the wild, unguarded feminine inside you, the one that still believes in sacred connection, the one that has been hurt, yes, but also the one that has never stopped hoping. And that's what makes these kisses more than affection. They are sacred witness, not to what you give, but to who you are. When he kisses you like that, he isn't just loving your body. He's touching the invisible places long held in quiet ache, the places that no one else bothered to reach. And maybe that's why you feel different now, because each kiss, when received in awareness, weaves a new thread in the story of your healing, a story not of desperation, but of return, a return to your worth, your softness, your wisdom, your stillness. So if this video touched something in you, let it linger, let it settle, and if you feel ready to continue walking this path of emotional clarity and deep feminine healing, there's more waiting for you. Subscribe to this space, this sanctuary of truth and tenderness. And as you do, I invite you to click on the next video that's appearing on your screen. It holds the next step in your journey, one you don't have to take alone.